The next tutorial in the water series is third-person fishing with a mini-game. You can make any type of rod using a master blueprint. You can add any hook for it with physics simulation so it wobbles around for realism. You can also add any spool, which is the part you rotate during fishing. Here is the rod and hook with wobbling. You can aim using right-click with a turn-in-place system, but this was done off-camera. When you aim at non-water or too far away, the crosshair will be blocked, otherwise it will be green and show a marker. To cast, press left-click while aiming. There is a trail when the hook is in air and bubble particles when in the water. There is also a splash particle and sound effect. After a random wait time, one of the fish will swim to the hook and the mini-game will start with a pop-up notification. The objective is to click while the rotating handle is within the green area. If I let the timer run out, the fish escapes. There is hand IK, so the player holds the spool and you can see them rotating it. The rod is animated too as it curves back here with the player pulling back for realistic animations. In the minigame, if I click incorrectly it will reduce the available time left, so you need to time it correctly. I will now win the minigame. When I win, the fish will reel back in and you get this fish caught notification. The video does not cover an inventory or storage system, so you will need to implement that on your own. You can cancel fishing using middle mouse button. There are sound effects where necessary, such as casting, for the UI interaction, etc. Other smaller details will be explained during the tutorial. You can cancel mid-minigame as well and it will release the fish. Here is a different fish type, which is a dace, and the caught notification adjusts dynamically based on them. You can adjust anything shown here since fishing is an expansive mechanic and there is no one way to do it and depends on your game. The fish shown are spawned using a spawner, so you can easily populate your water volumes with as many fish as you need and modify the spawn range. The fish will move randomly between points selected within the area. If you get the project files you will get some exclusives. First is an equip-unequip system with sound effects. It will layer to the upper body so you can do it while in motion and the legs continue. Next is a prediction path. This generates dots along the predicted path the hook will take when you cast. I made it a lighter blue color, but you can customize it how you want and also control the number of dots generated. It is also optimized for performance so it won't lag despite being updated constantly based on where you aim. The next exclusive is a second minigame type. It is the same as the first but will have two areas you have to click in to win. The option for which minigame is set in the fish blueprint. The rest of the mechanic works identical to the single one. There is also a mashing minigame. This comes when the fishing rod has no spool, so is not selectable per fish. The IK is also set to hold the rod instead of a spool. This minigame requires you to alternatingly press left and right mouse button until the progress bar is depleted. If you press the wrong one it will take away some time. Next you can set rods to automatically fish if you don't want a minigame. This will make the player pull 3 times before the fish is caught, but you can make it faster or slower if you want. Next is a bait system where you can attach bait or lure to the hook. You can open the hotbar to select using left control. There are 5 examples included and each will reduce the time it takes for a fish to hook on, with shrimp being the quickest. Since it is attached to the hook it also wobbles with it. You can see the selected bait at the top left when the hotbar is closed as well. Again, there is no inventory system here, so it is recommended to implement your own, so the bait is limited and needs to be collected or crafted. It is very easy to add more bait types using a single array variable. Finally is a fishing junk mechanic. You can fish junk only by cancelling a fish using the middle mouse button. Based on the time you had hooked for, the chance to fish junk increases. The junk is weighted by a value between 0 and 1 for rarity. The junk can also be changed if you fish within a designated area, otherwise it is set to the default list. The junk is determined by a data table, so you can add as many as you want. Also, you can replace the notification with a smaller pop-up if you want, since junk is more common and it will get repetitive for the whole widget animation. If you purchase the Fish AI project files, you will get this fishing system included for free with integration for it as well, so you can use the fishing rod on the Fish AI, which behave more realistically as opposed to the simple fish setup used in the video. Before we start, there are some disclaimers. This system works with any setup for the water volume as it is independent of it. I have used Epic's water plugin from the previous videos in the water series with the maps already set up. Next is that concepts from previous videos in the series are slightly used here, but I will explain them again here as best I can. Third is that due to the complexity of the mechanic, the blueprint communication methods I used may not be 100% accurate. I have tried to make it as object-oriented and clean as possible, but there may be some room for improvement here and there. This does not affect the mechanic itself. Next, the fish shown is very simple and just moves to random points for the patrolling. This is since it is not the focus of the video. It can be implemented into the fish AI system covered in previous videos. Fifth, I have programmed it directly in the character blueprint at the end to make the video more contained, but it is better to use components so you can add the system easily to other actors if needed. Finally, to prioritize clarity and make the tutorial more understandable, I did not collapse some parts to functions or macros where they could be. I fixed these off camera instead, although they have no impact on the functionality. Montage of the reel in one. This one should not be looping, but it was way too slow, so I made the play rate faster. Open fishing cast, and you can change the slot to upper body, which should be there by default. This is since if the player casts while moving or falling, the lower body will continue its motion animation. You can set all the other animations to upper body if you want the player to move while fishing, but I will leave it for now since I want the player to not be able to move. There is also another prerequisite here which I did in previous videos in the series. You need a hand IK setup, which I have here using a alpha to control if active and a vector for the position. I used a 2-bone IK node setup for it. I will link an example video in the description on hand IK which you can follow. Also, I have this very simple setup for the upper body layering where I simply play them above the spine only. Finally, I made it so the player's hands can be closed individually. This lets me close the player's hands when holding the rod or spool. The spool is the part of the rod that you spin for future reference, as I will use it throughout the video. Now I will get the models. For the rod I will get this animated one from Sketchfab by this user. It has a cast animation, so is preferable. The rod needs a hook as well, so I will use this different model and isolate just the hook. In Blender, pivot the fishing rod where it should be held by the hand. So in this case it would be at the bottom handle. I removed the spool from the skeletal mesh and made it a separate static mesh. It should be pivoted around the axis of rotation. Finally, the hook should be pivoted right at the top where it will dangle around the rod. I already imported them in Engine with materials applied. You can see the fishing rod is scaled and rotated incorrectly here by default, but the animations themselves look normal, so I used them. This is not good practice, however, for a real game, so make sure you have correctly set up skeletons. Next, open the spool mesh and remove any collision. Then add a socket called handle socket and move it where the part that the player holds is. Open the hook mesh and again remove the collision. Add a socket called hook socket where the fish should bite, which is basically the bottom of the hook. Now open the fishing rod skeletal mesh. I have the skeletal mesh editing tools plugin enabled, so the interface might look a bit different here, but it should not affect the tutorial. I will preview the animation. Add a socket where the spool should go called spool socket. You can right-click and add the actual spool mesh as a preview asset to visualize it better. It looks too small here. Since I scaled down the skeleton in Blender, it doesn't match. An easy fix for this, only if you have this issue, is to just scale the spool up in Engine and bake the transform using modeling mode. Then add a socket called hook socket and move it to the tip of the fishing rod. I will scale the hook too. You can see when the animation plays, the hook and spool move with it. Make a current pose animation of the first frame, which should be completely rigid and straight, called default. Then make one where the rod is curved. Finally, I will make the cast animation faster. The next model is a marker model. I couldn't find one that looked suitable for the mechanic, so I am using this one as a placeholder. You should probably use a better one, especially one that is animated with an arrow effect, which would look nice. I pivoted it around the center in Blender and imported it. For the material, I will make a very simple glowing translucent one using a Fresnel that is bright aqua. You can adjust the material however you want. Apply the material. Drag it into the world to test. You can see it looks nice and distinguishable from the water. You can use any color, but it is best if it stands out. Next, I will get the sound effects. You can use any you want, but these are the ones I got. First, I got some from Sound Dino. This one is for fishing cast when the player casts. This next one is for when the player reels in a failed catch. This one is for reeling in a caught fish. This next one is for the fish moving and splashing ambience. I split it up using a MP3 trimmer since it was one single sound. I got this one for when the hook lands in the water. I then got some glitch sound effects for the minigame interaction. This is an example, and you can use any UI sounds you want or none as well. I got this sonar ping for when you win a minigame round. I imported them in Engine. If you have multiple sounds for a single Make the oscillation duration -1 so it loops. I will set the amplitude of all three axes to 0.05 and frequency to 30. Amplitude is the strength or how much it shakes and frequency is how fast. Next will be the UI. First up, you need some icons for the fish. Also, the way I do the UI, or any other parts of this video can be changed as the mechanic is very expansive. I have these three icons for dace, trout, and tuna which I made by taking a screenshot in Engine of the models then making it look like a 2D RPG icon using Photoshop. The next video is a tutorial on how to make an icon maker like this if you are interested. Next we need some crosshairs. I am using 2 from this great free pack by Kenny. I will link it in the description. It is free but you can donate 2 if you wish. I used crosshair 16 and 125 for cannot fish and can fish respectively but you can use any. Now make a new user interface. Add an image in the center and align it to center. Make it one of the crosshairs by default. Then in the graph make an event called setCrosshair with a boolean input. Set the brush from texture and color and opacity to a select with the input as the index. If false, make it the cannot fish one and the color to red, otherwise green. Next will be a UI called fishing notification. You can skip this part if you don't want the fish hooked or fish escaped notification and want the mini game to just start. Design a notification UI. I will speed this part up. Make an animation for it. I will make one where the notification scales in X from 0 to 1, then the text fades in very quickly. In the graph, set the text to a variable on pre-construct. Set the notification variable to instance editable and expose on spawn so when we create the widget, we can choose the notification text for each time. This plays the pop-up notification, holds it for 1.5 seconds then reverses it to close it. Next add the event on animation finished. This code removes the widget if the pop-up was closed, but creates another one if one was added to the stack. Basically, if we want to add a notification but one was playing already, it will wait for the current to end then add the new one. We needed this because the fish hooked notification might still be playing when the player cancels or timer runs out, so the fish escaped notification needs to be added too. Finally, we will make a fish caught UI. Since the input will be disabled when this widget is spawned, on animation finished we want to reset it before removing from parent. That is all for the miscellaneous UI. Next is the blueprint interface. This will let us give different objects common methods that behave differently for each, so we don't need to hardcast, which is not good programming practice. Make a new BPI called fishing BPI. Copy the functions shown. The purposes of each will be explained when actually used in the code later. We can now start the blueprints. Make a new actor for the hook. Copy this component setup. It will make a hook with physics enabled so it swings around when the rod moves. Make sure here, you change the preset to custom and set all channels to ignore since we need the query enabled. Also set it to be invisible. Add collision back to the mesh, come back and set simulate physics on this, then remove the collision again. Do the same for collision, but this time the object type needs to be physics body. Then add a Niagara system to it and set it to the rod trail. It should default at the origin, which is where the trail should come off when cast. Finally, add a physics constraint to make it actually wobble around. Copy the shown settings. Also, add a projectile movement and enable rotation follows velocity. We will do the code here later since we need to do some other blueprints first. Make a folder for the fish and make an actor for it. It will just have a skeletal mesh and capsule collision, similar to how I did the fish AI1. I already have the fish models and animations imported. You can technically use a static mesh for this too if you want, but either way it is nothing complicated, just a mesh and one animation is all you need. Add these two custom events since we need to reference it, but I will fill them in later. Now we can make the fishing rod blueprint. First, make all the shown variables. Set the default value of hook offset to something like -30. It controls how much below water the hook will be. Now make an animation blueprint for the fishing rod. This gets if the rod should be rigid or curved. In the anim graph, we will use a blend poses by Spool to blend between the two. Add slot default slot so the cast montage can actually be played. Add the skeletal mesh in the blueprint. Then make an event called setRod curved with a boolean input. Copy the code. We call the BPI event from parent actor since this rod will be attached to the player. Next event will be called toggle hook mesh with a bool and scene component input. This switches between either the hook on the rod or a cast hook. If cast, it shows the wire and attaches it to the cast hook so it follows it. The cast montage also plays. Otherwise, it hides the wire and shows just the attached hook. Call the event on begin play. The next event will be called rotate spool. Towards is basically just clockwise or anti-clockwise. Destructive means it will cancel any current playing rotations and redo it. Set the timeline to looping. I will use the same sound for reeling towards and away but just with different pitches. This event rotates the spool with a given speed over a given duration by using a timeline to add rotation. Make an event called reel back in. This is when the fishing is completed. Make this timeline go from 0 to 1. I used shift click to add timeline points quickly. That's it. The project files would include a more complex system. This part simulates buoyancy on the hook so it bobs. It is just a very small detail. This check is for if the player goes too far away from the hook. If the player is 3,500 units away, the fishing should cancel. I will just use a move component here to move the hook back to the rod before it is destroyed. Although it is better to use the timeline setup I showed before so the target destination is updated if the player continues to move. That is all for the hook. I will now do the UI for the minigame. First, make a structure for it with the following float variables. Set the default values as shown. I will explain them when being used in the code. Next, make the user interface for it. I won't explain everything here except the main minigame UI. First, I added a vertical box for the main container. Then add a retainer box which is important for opacity to work. Set the padding to something like 10. I will now do the sliders, but keep in mind you can adjust it however you like, and this is just an example minigame. Add the first radial slider. This acts as the background. Adjust the settings as shown. For this one I will just change the center background color to whatever I want, which will be a dark gray. I will also make it thicker. Duplicate it and name it fill. This will be used to ensure the entire circle is filled, as there can be some gaps with larger thicknesses. Next, duplicate it for the target fill area. Increase the value, then change the slider progress color to whichever one you want. I used this turquoise color. This is basically the area where you need to click within to pass the minigame round. Duplicate it one last time and adjust it as shown. Make it a little thicker since it is for the handle that will rotate around. I made it look nicer off camera later by adding strokes around the sliders too. Now add a progress bar. I will style it so it looks flat. This progress bar is for the timer and it will work by depleting over a given duration, but if you fail around it will take a certain amount away from it, so The speed divider is used to control the speed. Lower values will make it slower. Something like 400 is good for an average fish. Add a custom event for start minigame. This randomly rotates the spool away from the player as the fish is trying to escape. We replace the patrol system here with selecting a random position near the hook so it looks like the fish is struggling to escape. Water level is the Z position of the water surface, so we use the min node to ensure the fish remains underwater. This will add foam to the water, but it is optional as it is hard to control. Since we need the fish's mouth to be attached to the hook instead of the origin, we will change the relative location to an offset. Jaw socket is a socket I have added to all the fishes where the jaw or mouth is. I will make the next function in a global function library so it can be called anywhere. This is how we will spawn the next notification after waiting for the current one to finish. Finally we will do the minigame events. First is 1. If it is the last round then the whole minigame is 1. Otherwise we increment the round and start the new one. Next is round failed. This calculation subtracts the decrement amount from the time. The value of failed decrement is a percentage of the whole duration, so it should be between 0 and 1. Then detach actor to unhook the fish and start the patrol again. In swim to bait, make sure you attach self to the parent. You can play the sound at the end of the minigame 1 event. Also on the detach from actor in minigame Lost, set all 3 to keep world since we don't want the fish transform to be changed at all. Now I will quickly show how to make a fish spawner to populate areas with multiple fish. Add a box collision. In the construction script, set its box extent to an instance editable variable. This lets us control the spawn range of each instance. Make the rest of the shown variables. All of them should be instance editable. Go to begin play and copy the code shown. Make a child class of the master fish for different fish types. I will do a days. You need to change the fish species and icon. The rest of the variables such as the speed and idle time can also be changed. Make sure you change the skeletal mesh and animation blueprint too. Also you can give different fish different mini games so smaller ones can be easier to catch with less rounds and vice versa. I will make one more for the other fish which is tuna. Now add the spawner to the level. Modify the spawn range to your liking. I will position it near the spear. My water body's Z position is -9, so I need to set the water level variable to that. If you have a fluid simulation, then set that variable too. You can see the fish spawned here and they swim around randomly, although the movement is simple and linear. This is the directional movement system I implemented off camera. This switches the movement to directional and to use turn in place when you start aiming. So if you want to do your own setup for it, which I highly recommend, you should add the aiming enabled part here. This spawns the marker mesh. This timeline is used to zoom the camera in. Next, add event toggle fishing IK. This again I have set up off camera, so you will need to adjust it to work with yours. When fishing is started, it enables just for right hand, since that is the hand that rotates the spool for me. I also close both hands. I then reset it on fishing IK stopped. The stop fishing IK event isn't actually used, but I kept it in case you might want to stop IK in between fishing. Now add IA cast. I will now test it. You can see I can right click to aim and it will spawn the marker and show the green crosshair if we fish nearer. I can then press left click to cast. If I let the minigame timer run out, the minigame fails and you can also see the notification pop-ups. The player was not holding the spool handle exactly because it did not take into account the length of the player's hand. To fix this, I will just offset the socket. Currently, the player can move while fishing. If you want this, keep the code as is, but you will need to change the rest of the animations to upper body too. You can see I can move around now and the upper body will continue to play the fishing animations. If you want the player to not be able to move, you can just add a branch condition in the movement input that only continues if not fishing. That is all for the tutorial. The marker appears and the crosshair is green if I try to cast nearer. The fish will hook on and you can see it struggling to escape and splashing around. I can also fish further away but it will not arc that much. If I aim too far away or at an object it will not show any marker and show the red crosshair. Here I lose the minigame on time and it will close and reset. Now I will win the minigame. Clicking while the rotating handle is within the green area will win the round. If I click when it's not in the range, it will subtract extra from the timer. After the third round, the minigame is won and it will reel the fish in and you can see the model. The fish caught UI also works. I can lose the minigame by failing too many times as well. Also, all the sound effects work. I can change the fish from the spawner and the number too. This is days. You might notice some lag here because I set the number of fish to 25 so it is performance heavy, although this is again since the fish patrolling was just a very quick example and not polished so you should replace or rewrite the logic. You can see the fish caught UI now shows the days now. That is all for this video. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe for more content. You can purchase this final result from Gumroad using the link in the description if you want. The project files will include exclusive features which include an equip and unequip system, prediction path dots, double minigame type, mashing minigame type, automatic fishing, fish bait/lure, fishing junk, and integration with Fish AI if you purchase those files instead, which include the system for free. The project files also come with the realistic island example, including a night scene. Thanks for watching.